Robert Sims spent his entire life protecting the silo, following orders, and believing that every terrible choice had a purpose. But in Season 3, Episode 4, something changes. The man who once enforced the rules without hesitation is now the person hiding secrets from everyone around him. And the biggest question is not whether Sims is dangerous. It is whether he is finally starting to understand that the system he protected was never protecting him. Because while Juliet Nichols is fighting to recover the truth buried inside her own mind, and while the people of Silo 18 are searching for answers that could destroy everything they believe, Sims is playing a completely different game. He knows more than almost anyone alive. He understands the rules, the algorithms, and the hidden decisions made by those above him. But knowledge comes with a price. In this episode, we see a side of Robert Sims that has been hidden beneath years of loyalty and violence. Is he truly trying to save his wife? Is he trying to save Juliet? Or is he making his own move because he finally realizes that the silo has used him just like everyone else? Season 3, Episode 4 is not just about secrets being revealed. It is about characters discovering that knowing the truth does not always mean having the power to change it. And by the end of this episode, one thing becomes clear. The people who know the most might actually be the most powerless. Robert Sims has always been one of the most complicated characters in Silo. When we first met him, he was not someone audiences were supposed to trust. He was the person who carried out the darkest orders of the Silo government. He was the man standing between the citizens and the truth they were desperately trying to uncover. For years, Sims believed he was doing what was necessary. Like Bernard, he convinced himself that every sacrifice, every lie, and every brutal decision was for the survival of Silo 18. He was not acting because he enjoyed power. He was acting because he believed the alternative was chaos. But the problem with that kind of loyalty is that eventually you have to ask one dangerous question. What happens when you discover that the system you protected never truly valued you? That question has been following Robert Sims throughout his entire journey. At the beginning, Sims looked like a man completely committed to the silo's rules. He was cold, calculated, and willing to cross lines that other characters could never imagine crossing. He represented everything that made the silo frightening. He was proof that the biggest threat was not always outside the walls. Sometimes the biggest threat was the person enforcing the rules inside them. But Season 3 has slowly been changing our understanding of him. The first major crack in Sims' loyalty came when he realized that no matter how much he sacrificed, he would never truly belong to the inner circle. He spent years protecting the silo, but Bernard never saw him as an equal. He was useful, but he was never trusted completely. That realization changed something inside him. For the first time, Sims started looking beyond the mission. He started seeing his family differently. His relationship with Camille became more important than the system he had served for so long. Instead of only thinking about what was best for the silo, he started thinking about what was best for the people he loved. But in the world of Silo, personal feelings are dangerous. The moment you begin questioning the system is the moment the system begins questioning you. And that is exactly where Episode 4 begins. Camille has just learned information that could change everything. After entering the vault and understanding more about the algorithm, she is placed in a position where she has to make an impossible choice. The algorithm has calculated a solution. But the solution involves Juliet Nichols. For the people controlling the silo, Juliet is not just a person. She is a problem. She represents everything they fear because she refuses to accept the version of reality they created. Juliet asks questions. Juliet searches for answers. Juliet remembers things she was never supposed to remember. And that makes her dangerous. When Camille receives the order connected to Juliet, many viewers might believe she is ready to follow the system. After everything we have seen, it would not be surprising if she chose obedience over emotion. But Episode 4 quickly reveals that things are not that simple. Camille may understand the rules of the silo, but she also understands what it feels like to lose control over your own life. And this is where Robert Sims becomes interesting. When Sims approaches Camille, he does not come as the powerful security leader we knew before. He does not come with threats or orders. Instead, he comes as a husband trying to help someone he loves. He tells her that he understands what the algorithm is planning, but he does not try to stop her. He does not expose her. He simply offers his help. At first, this moment feels surprisingly human. After everything Sims has done, we finally see the person underneath the uniform. A man who is tired. A man who has lost faith. A man who no longer knows whether the things he protected were ever worth protecting. But this is Silo. And in this world, nothing is ever exactly what it appears to be. The episode slowly reminds us why Sims is such a fascinating character. He is not a hero. He is not a villain. He is someone trapped between two worlds. He understands the system because he helped maintain it. But he is also beginning to understand the damage that system has caused. And that creates a dangerous situation. Because someone with knowledge and doubt is far more unpredictable than someone who blindly follows orders. The biggest twist comes when we realize Sims has been making moves behind the scenes. While everyone believes Juliet's fate is already decided, there is another plan happening underneath the surface. The people around Juliet are not simply following orders. Someone is changing the game. Someone is protecting her. And that person appears to be Robert Sims.
But the real mystery is why.
Is Sims protecting Juliet because he finally believes she is right? Is he protecting her because he wants to protect Camille? Or does he know something much bigger about the Silo's future? This is what makes episode 4 so interesting. The episode is not just about what characters do. It is about why they do it. Every character is making choices based on incomplete information. Juliet is searching for the truth, but does not remember everything. Camille understands the system, but is trapped inside it. Sims knows the secrets, but realizes knowledge alone does not give him power. And that leads to the central idea of this episode. The truth can set you free, but only if you have the power to act on it. And right now, almost nobody in the silo has that power. Robert Sims may finally understand the reality behind the walls, but understanding the truth is only the beginning. The real question is what he is willing to sacrifice to change it. The most interesting part of Robert Sims' story in episode 4 is that he is no longer the same person we saw at the beginning of the series. Earlier, Sims believed that control was the only way to protect people. He believed that citizens could not handle the truth, that fear was necessary, and that the silo could only survive if someone was willing to make impossible decisions. But now, after everything he has experienced, that belief is slowly collapsing. The system that gave him purpose has also taken everything from him. It took away his chance to become Bernard's true successor. It took away the respect he thought he earned. And eventually, it forced him to question whether his loyalty was ever rewarded or whether he was simply another tool being used by the people at the top. This is why Sims' actions in episode 4 are so important. He is not acting like a man trying to gain power. He is acting like a man who has realized power was never really his. For years, Sims stood beside the people controlling the silo. He knew about the secrets hidden beneath the surface. He knew there were layers of information that ordinary citizens would never see. But knowing the truth did not make him free. Instead, it trapped him. Because once you understand how the silo really works, you cannot simply walk away and pretend everything is normal. That is the same struggle we see with Juliet. Juliet has always been a person driven by curiosity. She does not accept simple answers. She sees a problem, and she refuses to stop until she understands the reason behind it. That quality made her dangerous to the silo. But it also made her the person most capable of exposing its secrets. The problem is that after everything she has gone through, Juliet is no longer operating with all of her memories. Her own mind has become another mystery she needs to solve. And this creates one of the most emotional conflicts in the episode. Juliet is physically present, but parts of who she was are missing. The memories connected to George, the mines, and her discoveries are buried somewhere inside her. She gets small pieces back. A name, a feeling, a connection. And those small moments prove something important. The truth was never completely erased. It was only hidden. This idea connects directly to the larger mystery of the silo. The people in charge have always believed that controlling information means controlling reality. If people do not know the truth, they cannot challenge the system. But episode 4 suggests that memories and emotions are harder to control than information. A person can forget a fact, but can they forget a feeling? Can they forget a connection? Can they forget that something is wrong? That is the danger Juliet represents. Even without remembering everything, some part of her still knows the silo is hiding something. And that is why the people in control are so afraid of her. Meanwhile, outside of Juliet's storyline, the episode continues showing that the problems in Silo 18 are spreading. The investigation into Orla Kent's death reveals that the silo is not only hiding old secrets, it is actively creating new ones. Paul Billings finds evidence that Orla did not die the way everyone was told. The official story does not match reality, and this discovery proves something disturbing. The silo does not just manipulate the future. It manipulates the past. By controlling what people believe happened, those in power can control how people react. If someone disappears, create a story. If someone asks questions, create a distraction. If someone gets too close to the truth, remove the evidence. This pattern has existed for generations. But now, more people are beginning to notice. Paul Billings is one of those people. Unlike Juliet, Paul was never trying to destroy the system. He believed in order. He believed in following the rules. But seeing the truth for himself changes him. Because once someone like Paul starts questioning the system, the problem becomes much bigger. Juliet was always considered a rebel. But Paul represents something different. He represents the ordinary person who begins to realize that something is wrong. And that is far more dangerous for the people in power. Because revolutions do not begin when everyone knows the truth. They begin when normal people stop believing the lies. At the same time, the storyline involving Daniel and Helen outside the silo continues exploring another important theme. The idea that powerful organizations do not always need to destroy their enemies. Sometimes they simply give them something they want.
A job.
A solution. A promise. A reason to stop searching. The mysterious people connected to Charlotte's mission understand this perfectly. They know Daniel and Helen are looking for answers. So instead of threatening them immediately, they offer them choices. They make the truth feel less important than comfort. And that is one of the most realistic dangers in the Silo universe. Control does not always come through violence. Sometimes control comes through temptation. The offer is simple. Stop asking questions and your problems disappear. But Daniel and Helen realize something important. When someone powerful wants you to forget something, there is usually a reason. The question is not only what they are hiding. The question is why they are afraid of you finding it. This connects with the main story inside the silo. Everyone in this episode is dealing with the same problem. They have discovered pieces of the truth. But pieces are dangerous. Because a partial truth can create more questions than answers. Robert Sims knows the system is broken. Juliet knows something is wrong. Paul knows the official stories are false. Daniel and Helen know someone is protecting a secret. But none of them have the complete picture. And that is exactly what makes episode 4 so suspenseful. The characters are not fighting against something they understand. They are fighting against something that is always one step ahead. The silo was designed to survive because it controls information. But now information is escaping. Secrets that were buried for years are coming back. People who once followed orders are beginning to question them. And the biggest danger for the silo is not an enemy attacking from outside. It is the people inside finally starting to see the truth. The final part of episode 4 brings together the biggest theme of the season so far. The difference between knowing the truth and being able to change anything. That difference is what makes Robert Sims' situation so fascinating. For most of his life, Sims believed information was power. He thought the people who knew the secrets of the silo were the people who controlled its future. But now he is discovering something much more complicated. Sometimes knowing the truth makes you weaker. Because once you understand the reality behind the system, you also understand how impossible it is to fight. Sims knows how the silo operates. He knows the decisions made in secret. He knows the calculations behind the sacrifices. He understands why people like Bernard make the choices they make. But understanding someone does not mean you can defeat them. And this is where Sims becomes similar to Juliet. Both of them have reached a point where they cannot go back to the life they had before. Juliet cannot return to being a mechanic who simply fixes machines and avoids politics. She has seen too much. She has discovered too many impossible things. And even though parts of her memory are missing, the truth continues pulling her forward. Sims is facing the same situation. He cannot return to being the loyal enforcer who follows every command without question. The difference is that Juliet entered this battle because she wanted answers. Sims entered it because he wanted to protect the system. But now both of them are standing in the same place. They are questioning the very foundation of everything they believed. That is what makes their connection so interesting. They come from completely different sides. Juliet was always fighting against the silo. Sims was always defending it. But the truth has pushed them toward the same destination: the collapse of their old beliefs. Episode 4 also continues exploring one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Bernard and the hidden structure of the silo. Bernard has always been a character who believes he carries a responsibility that nobody else can understand. He sees himself as a guardian, someone who must make terrible choices because the survival of thousands depends on him. But the problem with that mindset is that it can justify almost anything. A person who believes they are saving everyone can convince themselves that any action is acceptable. That is what makes Bernard dangerous. And it is also what makes Sims' transformation important. For years, Sims was becoming another Bernard, a person who believed the mission mattered more than individual lives. But now he is starting to see the cost of that belief. The people inside the silo are not numbers. They are not just statistics in an algorithm. They are families. They are relationships. They are people with memories and dreams. This realization is what separates the old Sims from the new one. The old Sims would have sacrificed anyone if he believed it protected the silo. The new Sims is asking whether the silo deserves to be protected at all. And that is a dangerous question, because every system depends on people believing in it. The moment those people stop believing, the entire structure begins to weaken. This is also why Juliet's return is such a major threat. Her importance is not only because she knows secrets. It is because she represents something the silo cannot control: hope. For years, the people living underground have been told that the outside world is death. They have been taught that obedience equals survival. But Juliet's journey challenges that idea. She proves that questioning the rules does not automatically lead to destruction. Sometimes questioning the rules is the only way to survive. That message spreads slowly. One person learns the truth, then another, and eventually the system built on secrecy starts facing a problem it cannot easily solve. Too many people are beginning to think. The episode also leaves us with more questions about what exists beyond the information everyone has been given. The silo has always been surrounded by mystery. Why was it created? Who designed the rules? How much of history has been erased? And most importantly, who benefits from keeping everyone underground and unaware? These questions are becoming impossible to ignore. Every character is now connected to the same larger mystery. Juliet is searching for the truth about the silo. Sims is questioning the system he protected. Paul is discovering that justice inside the silo is not as simple as following the law. Daniel and Helen are learning that powerful people outside the silo are also protecting secrets. Different stories, different characters, but the same battle. The battle between truth and control. That is why Season 3 Episode 4 works so well. It does not rely only on shocking reveals. Instead, it focuses on the emotional consequences of discovering the truth. What happens when you realize your entire life was built on incomplete information? What happens when the people you trusted were also trapped? What happens when the rules you followed were never designed for your benefit? These are the questions that make Silo more than just a mystery story. At its core, it is a story about human beings trying to find meaning in a world built around fear. Robert Sims' journey represents that perfectly. He started as someone who protected the walls. Now he is becoming someone who questions what those walls are hiding. But the biggest mystery is whether Sims can change enough to become part of the solution, or whether the system he served for so long has already changed him too much. Because in the silo, the most dangerous secrets are not always hidden underground. Sometimes they are hidden inside the people who know the truth. And as Season 3 continues, one thing becomes clear. The silo is not just fighting against outside threats. It is fighting against its own people waking up. And once people start seeing the cracks in the system, there is no easy way to make them forget what they have discovered.